Are you feeling a little glued to your screens and wanting to reconnect with yourself and be able to just step away from the screen? That's what we're going to be talking about today in our live episode. So stay tuned.
Can't say I never tried to warn ya. And I'm just trying to tell ya.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ed Troxel from edtroxel.com, where I help make video easy for you, simple and fun, if I might say. Today, we are going to be jumping into the conversation. We're going to be sitting down at coffee. So if you've never joined us before, welcome. I'll describe that in just a second. We're going to be sitting down at coffee with our special guest, and we're going to be talking about the entrepreneur journey. So if you're new around here, this is how it works. In this episode, you, the listener, are going to be eavesdropping in on our conversation. So grab some coffee, grab something to drink, and take a seat at the table next to ours so that way you can listen in on our conversation and get a sense of what entrepreneurship is like and what we go through, so that way you know that you're not the only one struggling with whatever challenges you're being faced with, or that you know you're not the only one who's going to be celebrating this big win for you. We are all in this together, and that's what I love being able to do here on the show. So grab your coffee, grab something to sit and take notes with, and we are going to dive into the conversation. Welcome, Dave.
Good morning. How's it going, Ed?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. So I'm excited to dive into this because you do something unique, I think, because I love the fact that you not only coach, but you coach with getting people away from the screen. So tell me a little bit more about what you do and how you do that, because it's super important, especially now with all of us being so glued to our screens because of COVID and everyone's working from home and doing all of the things that are always tied to a device.
Totally. Yeah, it's definitely a big part of my practice and just a part of my life in general, is just spending a lot of time in nature, and really a lot of my practice revolves around self-awareness and helping people connect with themselves and with their heart. And I believe personally that just spending time in nature is such a big part of that, because as you talked about just there, like we all spend a lot of time on our screens. We're all somewhat addicted to social media and our phones and all this stuff. And there's so much. It's only been in the last not very long that we've had access to these technologies, and they've made a massive impact on our life. And we're seeing, obviously, there's like huge increases in anxiety and depression all over the place because of these things. And it always amuses me when you see the studies around, like, yeah, time in nature is good for you. It's like, wow, surprise. But it's easy to forget that these days, especially when we're all locked in our homes. So that's a big part of my practice, is just getting people more active, getting people outside more, and just getting them more connected with themselves and with the actual people in their lives, not just the people online.
Oh, yeah, that is good. And how did you get started with this? Because that's always, the challenge. Was it something that you already knew, or was it something that you kind of fell into? How did that happen?
Bit of both. So my background before I got into all the coaching work that I do now is actually in skiing. So I spent most of my adult life as a semi-professional skier and ski coach, living in Whistler, BC, for about 11 years. Actually, I just competed and coached and helped, just spent most of my time playing and being outside in the mountains. And, there's a bit of a mentality in Whistler of kind of work to live, not live to work. And there's just a huge mindset around, being happy, enjoying your life, and doing the things that bring you joy and bring you, happiness and all this stuff. And for me, skiing was a big piece of that. And until in 2012, I actually broke my neck in a mountain biking accident.
Oh, wow.
So that was a big turning point in my life, naturally, as I'm sure you could imagine.
Yeah.
And that really opened my eyes more to spirituality and the power of nutrition for healing your body, the power of your mind for also like healing and kind of, just the power of like positive mental health and, just being positive, looking forward to the things that you're doing, kind of, as opposed to focusing on the negative, all that type of stuff. So the whole, just sort of going down the rabbit hole of all that at that point, and that was what led me into coaching. And then now it's become a big part of my practice, is helping people again, like tap into themselves and connect with themselves, and being in nature is a big part of that. So
Yeah, and man, so breaking your neck, I mean, that definitely had to, I mean, that had to be devastating. And so when you were making that transition and taking that next step, what was something like, were you like, yes, I'm going to keep moving forward, or did you have some struggles with trying to figure out what's going to happen next? Because that seems like,
yeah, it's definitely a bit of a curveball to deal with. As especially being someone who, like, my whole life was skiing. I coached skiing, I competed, I had sponsors, that was everything for me. And to kind of reevaluate and figure out what the thing was next. And I was almost 30 at the time. And so, I was kind of at that point where if you're going to make it as a professional athlete, like, not that it can't happen after that, but you need to kind of be on the track to that at that point, at least. And to then hit a roadblock like that and have to deal with it, it definitely made me rethink everything. I actually did start to get back into it again the following year after recovering fully. But then the following year, starting once it took a good year to get back to, like, almost the level that I was at before. And then the following year I started to, like, get competitive again and push myself a little bit. And I actually had a really, really bad concussion the following year, which also, like, rattled the injury again, and kind of tweaked some stuff that has been not completely healed. But then the concussion as well was that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, at that point. Because bones do heal, but concussions are cumulative and they keep getting worse and worse over time. And so that was for me. I was like, okay, I need to figure out a new path. I need to do something different. And that was when I went back to school for life coaching, and studied neurolinguistic programming, and did a program on personal training as well, and just really dove down the rabbit hole of, like, learning as much as I could about the mind and the body, and, like, how to make this whole thing work well, basically.
yeah. And that learning aspect is so huge, like being able to take that time to research and to go through that. And were you also working 9 to 5 or any part-time jobs, or were you able to just focus on going through the learning aspect?
No, definitely. I was like learning, like working and supporting myself the whole way through as well. And I also, because I went to school for coaching a long time ago, as I mentioned, but then I it took me some time to, like, get my confidence up. So I actually had a number of other businesses in the meantime, like learning the business skills kind of in real life before diving full on into coaching and making it my full time. So
Ah,
there was
so
there was a
that,
bit of there was a lot of attempted and some successful, some not as successful businesses in the meantime. But always with that core desire to, like, be doing more service work, be doing more coaching, and really helping people. But it just took quite a bit of time to build up my own self-confidence around being able to do business as well, because it's a part of it.
yeah.
You could be the best coach in the world, but without running a business around it, you're not going to be able to help very many people. So
Yes, and you bring up a great point. So many of us do go through multiple businesses, and we have to look at that as those are opportunities and we can learn from them, and that we don't want to take them as failures, because it led us to the next thing, or at least that's how I look at it. When you were moving through the different businesses, is that how you kind of looked at it too, or were there moments of like, I'm just done, like that was a complete
both.
waste of time?
Well, none of them were ever a waste of time. I've always had that mindset of, like, it's either you win or you learn. But there was some real harsh learning that happened along the way. So and you recover, you take what you get out of it, and sometimes your ego takes a big hit on the backside of some of these big learning moments. But I've recovered from everything, and it's usually you go up and you grow, and then you crash a bit, and then but usually you come back and you go higher on the other side of it, right? You take everything you've learned and you rebuild. Like the whatever that $1 Million Man thing is, like, better, or rebuilt him, like, better and stronger than ever before.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's true. And how do you work with your clients with the outdoors aspect? Because I find it really fascinating. And so, if I'm, I'm a techie, so I'm glued to the screen and I'm doing my thing. How do we get away from the screen? Like, what are some things that you like to work with to help us ease into the nature aspect?
Well, two couple main ways. Like one, when I live in Vancouver, BC, so we've got a lot of beautiful mountains here right in our backyard. That as often as I can, I will do our sessions actually in the woods. Like we'll go for a walk and we'll do like the coaching sessions with the guys that I work with outside, because that just kind of forces them to be off of the screen and unplug a little bit, and it's nicer to like connect in person as much as possible. But these days, especially with more, being more people like are in lockdown and having to be on the computer, is a lot more of my work is like this. So it's at that point it's more of just in a kind and caring way forcing them to do it. And just like working with them to figure out what works best for them, because for some people they love going for walks in the woods. For some people it's like the last thing they'd ever want to do, but maybe they love playing racquetball or like doing something else that's kind of able to connect with other people, and or whether it's outside or at least moving your body and being out of your house.
Yeah.
There's so many but like I said, it's important to find something that people enjoy doing. That's the key, because if you hate it, you're not going to be wanting to do it. You're not going to look forward to it. If it's something you really love doing, it makes it much easier to make time for it and make it a priority. So
Yeah, it's so true. And that's the part where I think it's awesome that you're able to take people out into nature. Because I know, like, I mean, I always like to do walks and things like that just to clear my head and just get outside. But especially in the beginning with COVID hitting, it was like I couldn't go to the gym and do my normal, transition driving and walking and stuff. So I started doing more walks in the neighborhood and being able to just have even 5-10 minutes in on the trail was like a huge like breather, and just being able to like feel that energy and that being able to connect with the nature all over. It was just so nice, and to see people doing that as well. Like that's what I like to do, is see others gravitate towards that and to be able to reconnect with the environment.
totally, yeah, we're a little overly civilized in some ways these days. Like we're kind of it wasn't that long ago that most people were either living on a farm or doing some type of outdoor work all day, every day, and it's, yeah, even though we've shifted a lot from that, well, most people living in cities and having things, you press a button on your computer and everything can be delivered to your door. Like it's very easy to stay at home, but there's still, we're built to move. We're built to like be outside and, just using our bodies for not just like our fingers and sitting down all the time, so it's super important for not just like, it's not just that that's how we did it before. It's like, that's such a key part of mental health and just staying happy and not losing your mind, especially right now. And there's so much extra stress and chaos in the world. It's really important for us to be moving a lot, even more now, but it's tricky.
Yeah, it's so true. And how do you find your clients? And I guess more specifically, who are typically your kind of clients that you're looking for, and how do you find them?
Most of my clients are coming, a lot of it's through word of mouth, referrals from past clients, and just from the network I've built over the years here in Vancouver, being involved in personal development for a long time. Also, I'm part of a large men's community here in Vancouver called the Samurai Brotherhood, which is phenomenal. I've been leading groups with them for the past 3 years. And, so a lot of it comes through that as well. It's like, since I moved to Vancouver about 6 years ago now, and I knew when I moved here that I wanted to just like expand my network as much as I could and connect with as many like awesome entrepreneurial people as possible. And I really put my mind to like building my network, because I know, success is more determined by who you know than what you know. And so that was I've spent a number of years building my network, and now that I'm stepping full on into coaching, it's just there's a lot of it that comes through what was already built through that. And then I'm still also beyond that. I do a lot of online marketing and through like Facebook, connecting with people in other groups and things like that. I'm still building that side of it, but I prefer when it's more just like people I already know or through referrals, and I can connect with people, just actually connect with them for a call and see what's going on, versus trying to market and like put out random things to people I don't know. So
Yeah, well, I love that you bring that up, because that is still word of mouth is still the number one way to market. And I think we forget that with being in the online space and seeing, social media and all of the easy Facebook ads are only $5 or $10 here. And we overlook the fact that word of mouth is still gold, and it still is the best way to market, and it costs you nothing. Like, you just have to do your job and be able to connect with your clients and really give them a great experience, so that then they're doing the work for you. So for you to have that, that's huge.
yeah, it's awesome, and it changes the mindset a little bit too, because like I try to focus mostly on giving with my marketing, with everything, as opposed to a lot of the marketing out there is trying to get people's attention or trying to like get you to buy something, versus I just try to consciously be focusing on giving value whenever I'm putting out content or putting out videos and things like that online, and then with my clients just really focusing on serving them as well as I possibly can, and helping them get what they want, helping them win. And if I'm focusing on just serving people as well as I possibly can, then I'm just creating raving fans out there. And like they see the shifts in their life, people in their life see the shifts in them, and like they ask questions. So it's only natural to be like, oh yeah, like you just talk to him, he'll help you with all the things.
Yeah.
And it's much easier that way too, versus like you said, trying to like putz around with online marketing and like steal a little bit of someone's attention. It's easier to, and it's more sustainable as well over the long term, if you're just always focusing on giving value and letting people just come to you. It's more like attraction based marketing, as opposed to like just putting out, being like everywhere all the time kind of thing.
Yeah. And what have you found challenging in your coaching business? It can be something small or it could be something big, but what have you found challenging through this entrepreneurial journey so far?
Um, the thing I just shared that I try to do has been very challenging to be consistent with. And, inevitably whenever, because you can kind of either build a business, like you can jump in and like burn the boat, so to speak, and make it your full commitment. Or you can build something on the side and let it like slowly grow organically over time. And I've experimented with both. I've built businesses both ways. This one, just because of everything going on and COVID and all that stuff, I did choose to take the burn the boats approach with this one, and just went for it, took out a loan and hired a coach and made it work basically. So while it did work this time, I have taken that approach before and it didn't work. So it's a bit risky, but it comes with a lot of stress as well. So I think everything that I've done in the past kind of helped me build up the grit and the ability to, keep moving forward in the face of fear and in the face of uncertainty that I needed to be successful this time. But there's a part of it that's, that's been very challenging as well. It's easy for your mindset to go like into fear and into like, oh God, like I'm struggling and I need to get clients. So it's like you can sometimes shift into that type of mentality. But when you do it, it doesn't work. It's been a challenge to stay in that kind of more abundant giving mentality all the time. But I've flip flopped a little bit, but I keep just trying to remind myself to stay on that page. And the more you do it, the more ingrained it gets. And and then it starts working more, and then it reaffirms your belief as well, and makes it just kind of spirals upward from that point. So
Yeah, that's powerful, because I feel like we all get that shiny object syndrome, and we all kind of start moving towards whatever it is that's trying to pull our attention. And you had just nailed it with the fact that we have to have that mindset, and we have to keep coming back to what's that focus, and sticking with that, and surrounding ourselves, with the right tools, resources, and people. You keep coming back to people, and nature, of course, like being able to reconnect, because with the online space, it's a beautiful thing that we have the technology, and it can definitely help us. However, we also have to be able to take a step back, and, like we've talked about, go into nature and be able to quiet the noise, and put away all the other voices, so that we can really tune into what do we want, what are we trying to do, and understand that we can do this, we will do this, we have done this, like really getting into that zone. And that is really, really powerful. It's stuff that I've been working on even myself the last year, to really try to keep going in that mindset.
Totally. And you kind of touched on something that I wanted to just flesh out a little more too, because there's a lot of you that are listening that have probably heard of mindset before, and you're like, oh, I tried that, it didn't work, or like, because it's one thing to try to like purposefully like think certain thoughts and put yourself into that mindset, but there's another layer that's deeper, that's really about your beliefs. And you can think certain thoughts, you can say mantras in the mirror all day long, but until you actually believe it, in your core, that's what it takes to kind of start really shifting the needle in your life, and actually have these things work. And I feel like it's kind of almost, and for me at least, it's been a bit of a two-step process. It's like, first, like mindset, and focus on like just purposefully thinking the way I want to be thinking, and then eventually over time it starts working, and then you get that feedback, and then the belief solidifies at that point, and then it becomes easier. But I feel like for myself, and I'm sure a lot of other, like for people listening, that they hear the mindset stuff and they're like, okay, I just need to like do the mindset thing, and then it doesn't work right away. So then they're like, well, that's dumb, it doesn't work, so I'm going to go back to doing like something else, or the safe thing, or I'm going to give up on my dream, because the mindset didn't work, and it didn't work instantly. But if you really start to think long term, and believe that it's going, even if you don't have the belief yet, believe that you can create the belief, and kind of get through the initial phase of just having to like fake it till you make it a little bit with the mindset stuff, then you can get to that point. But you have to be consistent, and you have to be persistent as well, and stick with the thing that you want to do. Whereas I feel like a lot of people just give up if it doesn't. We're so like, because of social media and everything, we're so conditioned to want stuff right now, that we're not willing to put in like a year or 2 years or longer into something that's actually going to be like really fulfill our soul with the work that we do. So
Yeah, it's so true. And that's the thing, when it comes to the social media stuff, is that we have that instant gratification. And so we're now training ourselves that it has to happen right away, otherwise it's not going to work. And it's not good for us. And so that's the hardest part, I think, especially being an entrepreneur, is knowing that we have to play that long game, and actually play that long game. Like, because it is a struggle, and there's so many things that are challenging us. I mean, even when I teach clients how to use Facebook Live, it's part of their marketing strategy. And it we have to work on the mindset of going live doesn't instantly get you a sale. It could, but that's not the goal right now, and that's not how it is going to always work. So it's, again, looking at that long game and understanding that we're putting in the work now for the rewards later.
yeah, yeah, and also just you know like you said, trying to like get your mind out of, oh, I'm going to do this to get a client. It's like, no, you're just trying to give away information and help people as much as you can, and then eventually, like if you keep doing that, people will start to want to hire you for things. But it's like, you can't be thinking in the like transactional, like I'm going to make this post, or I'm going to do this live, and then like someone's gonna, oh, I didn't get a thing, so I'm just going to scrap that technique. Like people need to connect with you, they need to get to know who you are, and they need to like understand that you actually care about them before they're willing to do anything for you or hire you or any of these things. So it's and that takes a long time to like get to know someone through their posts and stuff.
It's so true. And so many of us forget that it's that time factor, and most people are following us and really trying to connect with us over a year, maybe 2 years before they ever really reach out or even want to buy from us. So knowing that, we have to reevaluate everything and understand that that's why it's important to come from that place of giving and being able to share that, provide that value, so that way we're building up that relationship and helping them get to know us and be able to connect with us as much as possible.
100%. And just remembering that there's always more people watching than you think as well,
Yeah.
because oftentimes people get connected to like, or they get attached to like the likes and the comments and things like that on their posts. But one of my wife's coaches has this term, the creepy neighbors.
Yeah.
That there's so many people out there that you don't even know that are watching all your posts and taking everything in, but they never even like a single post. They never comment on anything. They're just hanging out, kind of peering in the window like a creepy neighbor. But you have to like remember that as you're doing your things, because sometimes, like someone might buy and they're like, oh yeah, I've been following your stuff for years and I love it. Like I've gotten so much out of it. You're like, what? Like I've never seen you on any of my posts interacting at all. And then they just, when the time is right for them, they come out of the woodwork and they're ready to purchase, and they've already had that relationship that's been built up with you over years. So it's just important to be consistent with that.
It's so true. And it's funny, now I'm going to have that vision all the time of the creepy neighbors. I call them secret followers, but now I'm going to see them peeking through the window. That is awesome. And tell me a little bit more about what you and your wife are doing, because that I think is great too, because I know you focus on coaching men, right?
Yeah, I focus on coaching men, trying to both like helping guys create more balance in their life between the masculine and the feminine, essentially. Guys that are like too far into the masculine and they need to learn how to like take care of themselves and take care of their health and learn about emotional intelligence and stuff. And then guys that are more on the soft side of the spectrum learn about sales and personal power and like confidence and things like that. So getting people more to that balanced middle. But my wife is also a coach. She works with women a lot around kind of just embodying more of like, again, a lot of stuff around confidence and self-esteem and things like that. She's done a lot of stuff around, she studied psychology and things like that and has spent most of her life working in mental health. She teaches dance, so it's like a lot of stuff around movement and like incorporating mental health and movement and like self-confidence and all that type of stuff. It's awesome work that she does. But now we're just starting to get into doing a bit of like, we're just planting seeds of it right now, getting into doing relationship work, working with couples and kind of like diving into the whole idea of conscious relationship. Using, if you're not familiar with it, it's essentially like if you're on more of the spiritual side, it's like using your relationship as a teacher and as like the ultimate personal growth vehicle, really, and kind of seeing that it's not about the other person and getting something out of the other person. It's like anything that's pissing you off about them is something that's pissing you off about yourself. So it's just like always kind of learning to reflect back and do the inner work yourself to be the kind of partner that you want to be, and instead of blaming your partner for everything that's wrong with them. And it's a pretty deep rabbit hole of the whole concept, but it's been something that we've been part of and practicing for a long time. We actually met in a conscious relationship course and way back, and so it's been part of our life for a long time, and like a passion on the side that we've got a lot of friends. We always support each other. We do a lot of like therapy and counseling and stuff ourselves to always be working on ourselves in a relationship. And it's kind of more of a fun like give back piece that we're starting to do, and we wanted to make sure we're like doing a lot of the work before we I don't want to claim to be a teacher when we've only been married for a couple of years. It takes time to really like get through our own hurdles before we felt like we were ready to start teaching more of this stuff, but we're just starting to dip our toes in it now. So
see, I love that though. There's a couple things that are amazing about that. One is that you both can now work with the couples and then go to the sides and work with each individual as needed, and then bring them back together. So it's really a solid relationship building piece there. And then what's also awesome is that you talk about being able to go to therapy and getting counseling and being coached through that part of it,
Yeah,
and having, and you use, fun and some other terms there. And I love that because it's refreshing, because so many people, even if they're not entrepreneurs, the 9 to 5ers, they look at therapy or counseling as a negative. And it's
totally.
so powerful when you look at it as, you get to do this versus I have to do this because something's wrong with me. So I really liked how you touched on that.
And it's the same as anything, like life in general. It's easier to handle things before they happen and like be proactive in life. If you're it's easier to like slowly invest and work towards the future versus crawling out of debt. It's easier to like, address these problems when they're like little things versus when they're monstrous and have blown out of proportion and you're fighting. And it definitely not everyone is on that page, especially with things like therapy, but it's been really helpful for us because it's made our journey a lot smoother. And it's funny too, like where our therapist that we work with now, our counselor, I don't know exactly what she is. She's magic either way. When we first started sitting down with her, she's like, "So what's going on? Like, what are we working on?" And we're like, like this and this and a little bit, but like basically we're here because we want to be proactive and like keep working on. She's like, "Oh my God, I love you." Like, I wish so many more people would take that mindset, because like usually I come in when things are like, it's like a last ditch effort to save the relationship, and she's like, it'd be so much easier if more people just like did this work throughout their time as opposed to like only when it's shit hits the fan, so to speak.
Yeah, no, it's so, so important. And so I love that you brought that up. And I know that we're getting close on time. So I just want to make sure to cover everything that you wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, it's there's man, we could talk for hours on
Yeah.
on this. But yeah, it's just I don't know. Yeah, just like focusing on giving mainly, like regardless of what your business is. I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm one of the biggest lessons I've been learning, plus the biggest thing I'm trying to teach right now is that idea of, there's so many, because it's like a lot of it really boils down to the basic kind of like fear versus love, and that relates to so much in life. And I feel like in particular right now there's just a lot of fear out there, with COVID, with everything going on in the US and the political situation, and like there's so much division and so much fear, so much like fighting against each other, and like paranoia and all these things. It's like more of us need to be focusing on love. More of us need to be focusing on giving, giving of our time, giving of support. Like that's really at the end of the day what I do in my business, and what Brooke does is we support people. And like we've done the work and the training to be able to do this professionally, but like it doesn't take years of training and practice to be of service and to give your time to someone and to support someone. Like we're all so disconnected right now. I just really like I would advocate and like encourage you watching to just pick up the phone and make some calls and connect with your family, and like do more Zooms, do more, like
Yeah.
if there's someone that's kind of like on your mind or in your heart that's like, man, I hope they're doing all right now, like just pick up the phone, call them, and like let them know you're thinking about them, because we could all use a lot more of that right now.
Oh, it's so true. And I'll share a quick story. I actually just did this. So every year I do a small Christmas party with some close friends. And of course, this year's different, right? And so we just did the Zoom thing, which of course was not as exciting or even close to it. And everyone's burnt out with the Zoom. But it felt so good to still do it and provide that option, because we were able to meet for an hour. Not everyone could show up, but that's fine. But we had an hour where we actually got to see each other. And most of us haven't actually seen each other for a while. And so it was just such a good, good moment. And after the Zoom, it just felt so good, even still now, to be able to put that together, still have something that's consistent, and also be able to see each other, even if it was only for a few minutes, but to have that space and just open it up. So I love that you brought that up, and to share that. And we do have to take action on what we're feeling. And if we're thinking of them, go ahead and take that action. Don't wait on that, because you don't know when they're going to need that call, that text, that quick message. It's powerful.
Totally. I agree.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dave, for hanging out with me today. And I will connect with you here more online for sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Course.
We'll talk again soon.
All right. Take care, Dave.
You as well.
All right, guys. I hope that you enjoyed that conversation, and you can find in the notes down below all the information. So then that way you can also connect with Dave and check out all the things that he has going on. I really, really encourage you to take what Dave said and run with it and help connect more with people that you're thinking about, both online and offline, and just be able to provide more value and be coming from a place of love versus a place of fear. So if you need anything, feel free to reach out. You have all the information you need down below. And until next time, we'll see you later. Stay safe out there and enjoy.